Blues hockey.
WXOS HD1E St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. It's time for the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show.
Presented by Scott Lee Heating Company and Urban Chestnut Brewing Company on 101 ESPN.
To the near wing, and Falk will clear to center ice. What a play. McGinn got it loose. Dvorsky scores! Fourth goal of the year. First in even strength. And Dalibor Dvorsky ties it 1-1. 9:54 to play. First period. Thomas. Slot to Buchnevich. The neighbors back door. They score! Dvorsky. He's got two in the game, and the Blues back to within two. 11:31 to go. Third period. It's 4-2.
Two-goal night for Dalibor Dvorsky as the Blues fall to the Nashville Predators 5-2. But Dalibor Dvorsky picks up his fifth goal of the season and picks up his first even strength goal of the year. Welcome everyone into our extended post-game coverage, the fourth period, here on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN. We're live up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL as well, so you can join in on the conversation over there. You can check us out over on our Twitter account at Ferrario101 ESPN or at 101 ESPN. And of course, you can text in 314-399-9646. We'll hear from Jim Montgomery, hear a little player reaction with our soundbite of the night, and we'll have our final look. But Joe Vitale's going to swing in now for our Ted Drew's three takeaways. And Joe, we can get more into the game later on, but to start with the positives, man, I asked Steve Ott about this. You can really see Dalibor Dvorsky's game continue to develop. I mean, tonight felt like, yes, he scored the two goals, but he was shooting from a lot more areas than we've seen before. He was very effective in terms of the forecheck. Took a penalty in the second period there, but overall, it feels like you're seeing the composure continue to build for Dalibor Dvorsky.
Well, yeah, I mean, Alex, you're seeing a young player that, you know, got called up, got put in a great position to succeed. You know, in November, he scores 3 power play goals and, you know, kind of hit the ground running. You know, it's been a while since he has had a big impact 5-on-5. He had the 1 assist. He finally gets his first goal 5-on-5 here tonight before adding the next one on a power play. But, you know, a player that, again, has taken full advantage of the opportunity. And now he's looking around the locker room and the bench, and more injuries down. 3 of your top 6 forwards are out with injury, and Kyrou, Snuggerud, and, of course, now Dylan Holloway. So someone needs to step up, right? I mean, we talked about it with Curbs on the wrap there, and, you know, the stepping up from veteran players, stepping up from young guys. And I think he's kind of really beginning to get more and more confident. You know, his call-up last year, the couple games he was here, he looked scared. He looked nervous. I mean, of course, it's your first call-up. He's a young kid. But I think that those call-up games, this is why you do it. You call him up for a couple, you let him get uncomfortable, and then, of course, you send him to the summer, and you say, now go train and go make a team out of camp. And I thought he spent the whole summer doing a great job. He had a good camp. He was one of the first call-ups here, and he's now made no mistake that he is going to go down this year, you know, and I think for Jim Montgomery, he is starting to see it more and more, and that's where more opportunity is given. But it's not just the shot. It's the playmaking. The speed's been there. You know, he had a tough night on the dot here with Ryan O'Reilly especially. Yeah. But you know, a player that's continuing to learn. He's continuing to grow, and this is what you want to see for a young player who's given the opportunity. And I hope that this game here tonight with the multiple goals really can kind of spark him 5-on-5 and continue to help this team win.
And that's what you want at this point. Of course, we don't know how the season's going to end, Joe, and, you know, we hope that the Blues find a way to pull themselves back into this conversation. But, man, on the downside, if for some reason the season goes for naught, you look at it and you see more and more development for a Dalibor Dvorsky that maybe at the beginning of the season you didn't know if he was going to be getting significant ice time at the NHL. By the end of the year, if you've played 50-something games, you've figured out what the NHL pace is like. That's very impactful for a young player to have a full season of the NHL and go into an offseason and train for it differently.
Well, yeah, and, you know, Curbs and I, we talk a lot about the comparison with Dalibor Dvorsky, and let's just look at Robert Thomas. You know, back in 2018, Thomas was here. He had to stay here. He was not going to go back to juniors as he already won a a championship there, and he was too young to go play in the minors, so they had to just kind of figure it out with Robert Thomas. And figure it out they did. But remember, he was scratched a bunch, to start the season. He was in on the lineup. Remember, people often forget, but he was scratched for Game 7 against the Boston Bruins to win the Stanley Cup. So it was a young player that, had his bumps and bruises, but he was here, and he stuck by it, and he was learning every single day. Any practice, any game, any meeting, it's an opportunity to learn, and that's what Dalibor Dvorsky now is faced with. Now you look at the way Robert Thomas, his first year went, and look where he's at right now. An all-star, a potential guy to play for Team Canada in the Olympics. I mean, that's the progression that they're hoping. But it takes time. But it takes games. You got to be here. You got to be around. Again, you hate to see all the injuries, but that is more opportunity for Dalibor and Alex, and you really got to tip your hat to him because he really has made the most of this call-up, and he has made the most of the opportunities been given to him.
The other one I wanted to ask you about is Logan Mailloux. You talked about him a little bit on the broadcast. Now, he didn't pick up any points tonight, but he had 2 shots on goal, 4 shot attempts. The defense is continuing to grow in the NHL, and we know that's going to take a little bit of time. But, Joe, every time I see him in the offensive zone now, man, it just pops off the page. He's got a really whippy shot. Like, it's not a heavy slap shot like a Colton Parayko, but it's one of those shots that when it takes it, it's heavy on the net, and it's deceptive for the goaltender. That's really effective for the Blues to have.
Well, yeah, and his stats from coming from the call-up have increased dramatically. Curbs and I, we had a little graphic on the broadcast as well showing, like, send down and then post send down. And you know what? Offensively, it's been there. And I think that's the part of his game that one of the reasons why the Blues made the trade, for Zachary Bolduc was that this was a defender, and he showed it a little bit in Montreal, more, of course, in the American Hockey League last year, but a player that can run a power play and that can really get involved offensively. I think he comes into the year, and I think he was excited about contributing offensively. And what happened? I think he had to learn the hard way that, he ran into a couple tough games. And I think that kind of, shocked his confidence a little bit. Yeah. So I think him and along with the entire defensive pairings back there, they had to, kind of, let's start back from ground zero. Let's go backwards. Let's just defend first. And then we're going to build our game back up. So I think that's where a lot of, Logan Mailloux's offensive struggles have started. I think he was hoping for better numbers this year, and now they are coming, which is good. But I think that, that's just one example of a big issue here in St. Louis, which is why I think the defensive numbers are down. And we'll kind of, maybe I'll pivot into a bigger direction if you don't mind, Alex.
Yeah, please.
But it's, Logan Mailloux, his numbers probably aren't where he wants them. I think outside of Justin Falk, I don't think anyone's offensive numbers are where they hope.
Agreed.
I mean, Colton Parayko, no goals on the year. Cam Fowler's got the 1. And I think Broberg's got,
I think he's got 1 goal, but I think he's only got like 10 or 11 points.
You know what I mean? So you look at that top 4. I mean, 3 of the top 4 are underperforming offensively, especially after last year. I mean, Colton had 16 goals last year.
Fowler was one of the best defensemen
post-Christmas.
Trade, yeah.
Yeah, he was incredible too. So what happened? What happened was that I think that you start the year, you lose a couple veteran players, and you replace them with young players, and then all of a sudden you thought you were going to continue to go like you did in last year's second half with defensemen going, and it was like, oh, whoops, that came in the back of the net. Oh, whoops, that came in the back of the net. All of a sudden, like, you started getting a little scattered defensively because you're thinking hyper-focus on offense, and then now you're losing games 5-0. You're losing games 6-2, and you're like, what the heck is going on? So everyone had to be like, okay, let's settle down. A couple weeks in, we're getting smoked. We're giving up way too many grade A's. And, I mean, these are hurting us. So then I think everyone had to kind of regroup and say, what are we? We have to defend first. Like, there's no sense of, scoring goals if we're not going to defend. So I think they had this kind of identity shift, Alex, where I think everyone as a unit back there said, let's get back to the meat potatoes and learn how to defend. And I think they certainly got better at that, starting with that game in Toronto where they changed a couple schemes, and now they started to defend better, and they started picking up more points. And now I think now that they were starting to defend better, now they got to find offense again. But now it's tricky because you're missing a lot of your offensive guys.
It really is
So
whack-a-mole.
it's whack-a-mole. So now you finally defend well, and you're starting to find your rhythm. But then now with injuries, now you have 3 of your top 6 forwards out. Your goal scorers are gone. So now the defenders really need to jump up and contribute offensively, and now that's why you're seeing more gaps come up defensively.
That has to be a really disconnected feeling if you're just an individual player or if you're a team right now in that locker room, Joe. And I have to imagine it's why we haven't seen consistent wins from the Blues because, yes, the whack-a-mole, yes, the injuries, but everything just feels disconnected from where they were last year, where everything was buzzing at the right place.
Yeah, everything just came together at the right time. And I think this year, in some ways, it's kind of the opposite. So it certainly is frustrating. Put yourself in a player's position on this team. It really is, because as a player, you want to go out there and you want to save the day and you want to be the hero. Everyone wants to be what Dalibor Dvorsky was here tonight. I'm gonna go out there and get a couple goals and spark this crowd and spark this team and spark this homestand. And they play with so much pride where they want to take it on their shoulders and do it. But we're limited. I mean, these players are limited. This is a hard game, and it takes a team effort. And at times, I think you try to overcompensate and do too much for yourself, and then things really start to unravel the wrong way. But then you look around, and maybe we don't have the team identity because we're missing so many players, and there's different chemistry. It really is a catch-22, almost like you're running through quicksand here, and it's something that Jim Montgomery is going to have to continue to work through with the leadership group and the coaches and try to figure out other ways to win games.
You mentioned on the defensive side how they have tightened up, and I think a lot of people will see 5 goals that win in. One was an empty netter, Joe. And 2, like you mentioned with Curbs on your breakdown, a tougher night for Joe Hofer that I have to imagine there's a couple of goals he's frustrated with.
Yeah, listen, the Philip Forsberg one in the first shift of the game, I mean, he's in the right spot. It's just a heck of a shot. There's not a big window for Forsberg to shoot that, and this is why he's one of the best in the league. But still, Hofer, I think, wants to have that puck. That play could have been broken down, too, as Thomas was right there. He makes a swipe at it. He actually just misses. I mean, that's the difference between winning and losing sometimes. It's just that close. I think that some of the concerns for Hofer were probably in that second period. The wraparound was the first one where it looked like he just lost his edge.
Yeah, you broke it down perfectly. He was not set, and like he lifted his pad at the moment that Bunting took that shot.
Yeah, he was off balance, and then he had to use his glove to keep himself upright. And then he puts his glove behind him, and then his stick flies up in the air, kind of fillets open, and then there's just an opening 5-hole for Bunting. So that was a tough push and a tough break for him. And then, of course, the Schaefer goal there moments later at the blue line. He looks like he's just the puck's leaving the zone, and then Schaefer keeps it in the offensive zone, just kind of turns and shoots it. And you saw Hofer's positioning. He's standing straight up.
Because he's expecting that puck to get out of the zone.
Well, he's expecting the puck to get out of the zone. I mean, even if it doesn't, Schaefer's probably just going to throw it and rim it back around for a cycle. I mean, watch our goalies throughout a game. They're not always crouched down ready. They're even in the offensive zone, they're standing up. They're looking.
Yeah.
They're not really down and their knees bent in a set position unless they maybe think a puck is coming their way. So, but again, nonetheless, it's a puck from distance. And it's one that doesn't get redirected or deflected, I don't believe, and it goes in just over that pad. So a couple very tough goals there for Joe Hofer. Jim Montgomery decided to stick with him there in that third period. The Blues made it interesting, Alex, but I think that this kind of really re-showcases the fact that the goaltending at times, both for Binnington and Joe Hofer, just haven't been there consistently.
Non-hockey-wise, I think you guys did an incredible job with Chaser. I don't know how you guys kept it composed talking with him, because the moment he turned his microphone on, I think it was that second TV timeout, man, I was almost in tears up here.
Yeah, it was a great night aside from the hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, the fan support and what the Blues do through the V Foundation, the money they put to research for people like Chaser. And I think that, Kelly has done such a tribute not only to this city when he wore the jersey and post-career, but now he's a tribute to all the awareness he's bringing to cancer research and the money raised, and whether it be his puck cancer events at Centene Community Ice Center, and just being around town. You saw the Lamborghini. That's going to raise a whole ton of money there as well. And it's emotional. It's emotional being by him because he just wears his emotions on the sleeve. He's just constantly fighting back tears. I think he's a player a former player, and now a pro to the day he dies, whenever that will be, that just understands what this moment is and what the city means to him. And it's a city that has just turn their hearts over to him because he gave their hearts to them. And I think it's just that wonderful relationship that makes St. Louis so special.
Also, I'm 100% with you. That national anthem, I got choked up.
Oh, man, that was tough.
That was incredible.
We cannot come back after that. Yeah. So luckily, it gave us a few minutes to catch ourselves, but, boy, she did a great job.
Give us a couple seconds of silence. Yeah, she was outstanding, and I loved how she kept running with it, and they would talk to her in the middle of it, and she just kept flying through that anthem. She nailed it. Yeah. Also, I have to mention, line of the night on the broadcast from Joe. Ryan O'Reilly, a great stripper. If he was, Demi Moore would be jealous.
I said that?
You said that.
No.
Yeah, you said that. Did
really
you black out when you said that?
Man, I'll be honest with you. I kind of remember something like that. People will come up to me at school drop off and pick up, and hey Joe, when you made that line about the hot tamale last game, I'm like, and my wife's like, what did you say? I'm like, honey, I have no idea. Like I don't remember.
You look at me and said, this guy's crazy. I
said, honey, I am innocent. Again, I don't know what they're talking about. And, she'll get stories all the time like, oh, my gosh, your husband said this. And she's like, did you on the broadcast the other day talk about why men have nipples or just whatever, right? And I'm like, I don't think so. That doesn't sound like something I think.
That first year of us, we talked about some random stuff.
We towed to the line.
Those school drop-offs had to be really interesting.
Yes.
Talked about brushing teeth with your wife's toothbrush. Talked about dirty socks. We talked a lot. We did really toe the line on those broadcasts.
We broke down life.
And look at you. You went 6 years later, and you took that talent to the television.
See, people thought we were breaking down the game. We're breaking down life, Alex. That's what we do up here in the fourth period.
That's deep, Joey V. Get out of here, buddy. We'll see you Wednesday.
Thanks, boys. See you Wednesday.
That's Joe Vitale with tonight's Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. Always enjoy it when Joe Vitale hangs around with us. Of course, Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. We have it every single Blues extended post-game show. And we're going to hear from Steve Ott momentarily with tonight's soundbite of the night. But before we do that, I did want to read to you Ted Drew's, where tradition tastes great and the holidays feel right at home. Let's hear it now from Steve Ott. If you missed it, right after the game, had the chance to catch up with the Blues associate head coach, and he'll be tonight's soundbite of the night.
The soundbite of the night is presented by Rocket Convenience Stores. Fuel your car and your daily cravings at Rocket Convenience Stores.
Steve, 5-2 the final score. Did that string of penalties there, Steve, does that take away the Blues' ability to kind of get to their game when you have so many penalties tight together?
Well, for sure. We lost some momentum in that period, right? And that's exactly what ends up happening. Certain flow of the game, it starts to be affected, but we got to be better than that.
Steve, let me ask you about Dalibor Dvorsky. Of course, 2 goals tonight, but do you feel like you're seeing more and more improvements with this game and confidence?
I sure do. You know what? The first goal was a heck of a release, and that's what he's special at. And the power play goal, we've been working on getting him underneath on those low slot line areas, and to see him get the production off of plays that are coaching plays. It's great to see. He's a great kid. He's working extremely hard, and he's learning on the fly. So it was great to see him have a good night.
And finally, Steve, of course, a big night, Hockey Fights Cancer Night. What's it mean for you guys seeing all the fans battling cancer, and of course your good buddy Kelly Chase?
You know what? To see Kelly obviously tonight and what he's gone through and continues to show that heart that he has, the St. Louis Blues heart, and that's what you saw in the Jumbotron there. He's a great friend. He's a great man. And, for everybody out there that's battling, for my own mom that's been through it a couple times, to everybody, it affects everybody. And to see the pride of our, the stadium full, especially with the lights, Ari, and everything else, is pretty special.
There you go. That's Steve Ott. Special night for Hockey Fights Cancer Night here at Enterprise Center. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll hear from Jim Montgomery, and we'll have the final look before we close things down after a 5-2 loss. Nashville Predators beat the St. Louis Blues. Alex Ferrario with you. This is St. Louis Blues hockey.
to the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show.
Presented by Scott Lee Heating Company and Urban Chestnut Brewing Company on 101 ESPN.
Final time here on our fourth period, the extended post-game coverage on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN. And a lot of people in the YouTube chat bringing up Otto Stenberg, saying that the Blues should play him on Wednesday. My guess is if Otto Stenberg's recalled, Otto Stenberg's going to play. I'm a little surprised we didn't see Otto Stenberg earlier with all of these injuries, but in the Blues' mind, you know, if you're bringing up Otto Stenberg, you want him to play top 6, top 9 minutes. You don't want him to come up to a fourth-line role. And, you know, prior to the Dylan Holloway injury and the Jordan Kyrou injury, there really wasn't a spot in the top 9. So you let him continue to develop in the AHL. And then once Kyrou went down, it's like, okay, well, do you bring him up? You got some guys, some body still. Nick Bukestad still. Bukestad goes down. I think the Dylan Holloway was the camel that, or the straw that broke the camel's back. That's where it's like, look, we need playmaking ability in the top 9, and Otto Stenberg can provide that. You know, again, he was one of the best players in training camp and preseason. He made it to the final day of cuts. He was very effective in some of those preseason games, and he hit a wall in the start of the AHL season. And Jeremy Rutherford was with us on our Reporter's Notebook, and he talked about this, the conversation he had with Tim Taylor, to where Tim said, you know, you don't want to call it the sophomore slump, but it's that second-year wall that sometimes happens to players when they turn pro. And you saw it a little bit. But for Otto Stenberg, he's played a little bit more crisper in his last couple of games. He's picked up a few points for the Springfield Thunderbirds, and I'll be interested to see how he performs. You know, the other thing about Stenberg is he's got experience playing with Dvorsky down in the Thunderbirds organization last year. They played on a wing together. Or Stenberg was on the wing with Dvorsky at the center position. So my assumption would be you'll see Otto Stenberg in the lineup on Wednesday, unless the Blues are hoping to maybe get another practice for him. But with Wednesday and Thursday being a back-to-back, my guess is you'll see the NHL debut of Stenberg either one of those 2 games. Let's hear from Jim Montgomery after tonight's 5-2 loss.
It's time to hear from the head coach, Jim Montgomery, presented by Fisher Window and Door Store, offering quality American-made Marvin windows and doors. Visit their showrooms in Brentwood or East Alton, Illinois.
On Friday about how you could tell early on how the guys are going to support each other and where things were going to go. How did that first shift tonight kind of set the tone?
But it's a great example of not being prepared to start on time. You know, so but you know, it's Christmas season. I want to focus on the positive. The positive is Dalibor Dvorsky. It was nice to see him moving his feet. Beat a goalie clean with his first goal. The second goal is a really good power play movement. And he's on the back door, putting a puck in on the forehand, which isn't an easy task. Great pass by Jake Neighbors. All 5 guys touched the puck on the power play. That was really good. And the other real positive was seeing my old teammate, Kelly Chase. You know, when you think about Blues players and why this city and the fans love Blues players, it's because of the fight inside of players like Kelly Chase. And I was incredibly lucky to be, and I'm very thankful for the season I had to play with him, where I could learn from someone that competes like him in a night out, night in, night out for his teammates. And to see him up there and the message he delivered, I got a little emotional listening to him. And how can you not? Because you got to love the man.
Shed said yesterday he's just a guy that'll do anything for you. That pretty much epitomized him.
Yeah, I mean, you need tickets to a concert, he'll get them for you. You need reservations at a restaurant, he'll get them for you. You need a number to a great chef for a party, he's going to get you a number. He's just a guy that takes care of people. He's very, very unselfish.
On Dvorsky, just what kind of confidence can this give him?
I think it gives him the confidence that you could see it last game, that he was coming, like he found his legs again, and I talked to him this morning about it, and the fact that he's recognizing how to handle his body through the grind of an NHL season. This isn't a normal NHL season. So you're going to have peaks and valleys. And the peak he had tonight was all driven by the fact he was moving his feet and he was attacking the net. And he had a shot-first attitude. His shot's a weapon, and it's something that we encourage him to keep using.
Look at second periods this season. Is there any theme you draw as to why you guys struggled in the middle period?
Had too many turnovers, especially at the offensive blue line. Not the old saying, it's a Ken Hitchcock saying, and it's a great saying, play to the goal line and work and go to work together as a five-man unit, stay connected. If you have that mentality, and if we look at Friday night's win against the Hawks, our first shift in the second, we won the draw, D to D, we gained the red line, we put it in, and that Shen line went to work. And we gained momentum of it. And our second period last game was really good. And it starts, you got to be ready to start that period on time. You got to be ready to start games on time.
Maybe you drew a lot of pucks tonight. It seemed like loose pucks, they were winning a lot. Maybe chasing.
Yeah, I mean, they were a better team. They were more connected. They supported each other. They were, we always talk about puck support and winning goal lines and net fronts and second quicks is a term we use as well. And unfortunately, we didn't meet the task tonight in those areas.
On Dvorsky, just switching sides for him on the power play, just the thinking that goes into a move like that.
Yeah, Thomas has had a lot of success flanking down for years, so he's really comfortable on that side, and Dvorsky's comfortable on both sides as well, and we can see that tonight. And it's just, it felt like that power play in particular was getting stagnant on the opposite sides, and I'm sure now that we can work it from both sides, it makes it hard to pre-scout that unit.
It's time to take a look back at tonight's game with the final look.
Driven by Pure Performance. Only stop for all your aftermarket vehicle needs.
So once again, that's Jim Montgomery as we now enter our final look. And I see the comments over on YouTube, and I see people wanting more frustration right now and more anger that the Blues lost again. I don't know where the anger is supposed to come from. I think you're realizing what this team is. Yes, their top players didn't get the job done. Their top players weren't the best players on the ice. Frankly, they didn't have a lot of them because the injury bug has hit them. But I also am not going to use the injury bug as the reason that the Blues struggled in this game, because this has been the theme for the Blues. It's just been inconsistent. And I think Jim Montgomery nailed it for you there, talking about not playing to the goal lines, being disconnected, too loose with the puck at the blue line. That's turned into odd man rushes, and then some shots getting past the goaltender that the goaltender would tell you he's frustrated with. That's been the theme of the Blues all season, and why I'm not going to sit here and shout that the Blues lost again. Look, yes, we all see that the Blues lost again, because I think at some point in the season you do have to start searching for the positives. And I think Jim Montgomery once again nailed it. Dalibor Dvorsky was a positive in this game. For the last couple of seasons, we've been talking about the development of the younger players. And the hardest thing to do is develop the younger players while you're trying to compete. And that's what the Blues were trying to accomplish. We all hope that they figure it out and turn this thing around and start to compete for the playoffs. But in the meanwhile, you're developing players that are going to be a part of the future. Now, you don't want them to experience losing consistently, because that's what happens with organizations like the Buffalo Sabres. And then you're stuck with every year feeling like it's a losing mentality. That's what you want to avoid if you're this organization. And they're going to avoid that, because how often has this organization had a stretch of just losing hockey? Hasn't happened a whole lot. There's a reason why. But you want to see the development of these players. Dalibor Dvorsky is going to be a top six centerman for this team in the future. And for them to compete, you want Dalibor Dvorsky to get to that level. And tonight felt like it was something with Dalibor Dvorsky. I was questioning it about a week ago, saying like, man, he's just not shooting the puck. He's just not driving the offense like you thought you'd see. Tonight he was doing all of that. And that's huge to see that, because then you gain confidence from that. You gain confidence there and you say, I can play at this level. And then you come out like, you just come out different. You know, Bolduc is the one I always go back to the conversations that we had with him from one offseason to the other. And that first season where he got a taste of like 15 or 16 games, and he said, I know what I need to do to be an NHL player. I need to get stronger on pucks. I need to be able to win puck battles, and I need to make sure that I'm ferocious in the offensive zone. And what did he do? He went into that offseason. He gained about 15 pounds of muscle. He became a force in the offensive zone, and he went on to score 20-plus goals for the Blues last season. That doesn't happen unless he gets that sustained stretch the year prior at the NHL level. So to be able to say, this isn't, we're talking 20, 25 games for Dvorsky. We're talking this guy's here to stay for the rest of the season, which is going to be closer to 50, 60 games this year. Take that into an offseason that says, now I know what I need to do to be at the NHL level, and then you come back stronger with it. Logan Mailloux is another one. Like, without Snuggerud, without Holloway, without those guys continuing to develop, you've got that next tier of players to develop. So, yeah, I'm not going to get angry about this loss because, frankly, there's no reason to get angry. Unfortunately, it's been an inconsistent season, and until they start showing some consistency, that's when we can start getting angry about every single loss. But I think where they're at right now, yes, we want wins as Blues fans. But I think we also want to see the prospects develop. And unfortunately, with all of these injuries, now is when you get to start seeing these guys figure out how to play at the NHL level. It's all of the assets that the Blues have been accumulating over the last few seasons. They're bringing it in, and now they're establishing it at the NHL level. And that's where this team is at, unfortunately, in the middle of December. And I also want to second what Jim Montgomery had to say. Also feels like one of those nights that I'm not going to sit here and get too upset about the hockey game because there's a bigger meaning with this Hockey Fights Cancer night. And I thought this was an outstanding job done by the St. Louis Blues organization, by Blue Note Production, all of the videos, all of the kids that were involved. They had one singing the national anthem. We had one giving the starting lineups. A cancer patient who beat cancer dropped the puck tonight. And, of course, our great friend Kelly Chase here pumping up the crowd. It is always incredible and a blessing to get to see Kelly Chase here at the arena, and I hope everyone soaks in those moments to just see Kelly Chase out because it's so meaningful to get to see this guy around and continuing to bring that love of St. Louis and love of people to everybody here in the arena. So that's what matters tonight. We can focus more on the Blues' inconsistent play later on in the season, but for a Hockey Fights Cancer night and for a night where I felt like some of those younger players really broke through, that's where you really want to hone in on for a night like this after they fall to the Nashville Predators 5-2. So that might stir up YouTube. I'll refresh with everybody, and we'll reconnect tomorrow at 11 a.m. on BK and Ferrario. But that'll close it down for us here tonight on the fourth period. Well, I really appreciate everybody being a part of this one this evening and joining in on the conversation, listening on your way home. Really fun night tonight here at Hockey Fights Cancer night at the Blues Arena. Also, the fun doesn't have to end because tomorrow, I'll pump this up one last time, we are going to be at Hot Shots in Fenton from 6 to 7:30 for a live edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. It's going to be myself, Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic, Donnie Fandango, 105.7 The Point. All of us are going to be at Hot Shots for a live podcast, and Tony Twist is going to be our special guest. I am super pumped about this one to get to talk with Twister about his career, about his stories playing in the NHL. It's going to be a blast. Unedited, unfiltered. It's just going to be Tony Twist, and it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun talking hockey. There's drink specials. There's food specials at Hot Shots in Fenton. Get there at 6. Bring as many cans canned foods and non-perishable items as you can to donate to Operation Food Search to help families in need this holiday season. You bring those out, you get yourself an opportunity to play our game Good Puck, Bad Puck, where you get to win a signed Blues puck, whether it's a current Blues player or a former Blues player. There's going to be ticket giveaways for Blues games. There's going to be a signed Jordan Binnington jersey, and we're going to have our brand new Last Minute Blues podcast stickers that are going to be available. So come out, Hot Shots in Fenton, 6 to 7:30 tomorrow. Bring those non-perishable food items to donate, and we're going to have fun talking hockey tomorrow night that we're hoping we can make this thing a yearly tradition during the holidays. So hope everyone has a great rest of their evening. Once again, a huge shout out to Jim Hewer up here in our broadcast booth, Shelby Sheehy helping us down by the Blues locker room, and our phenomenal producer Jordan Deacon back in our network studios, doing a great job taking care of us tonight on the broadcast. Once again, I'm Alex Ferrario. Blues fall to the Nashville Predators 5-2, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday to start another set of back-to-back hockey games as the Blues continue with this 4-game homestand. Winnipeg Jets in town, and we'll have it here for you on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show.
Presented by Scott Lee Heating Company and Urban Chestnut Brewing Company on 101 ESPN.